I'm here with Jim Cramer on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange to answer your Twitter questions. And Jim, of course, so many questions about what's happening with the market today. I'm going to lump a few together for you. How do we handle this massive sell-off? Buying opportunity, is it just the beginning? Is today the day to panic and sell or double down? If so, double down on which stock?
Okay, you know, these are terms I see on Twitter, and I think you're going to have to separate and be a little older, so to speak, be a little nuanced. I mean, if you own an oil stock, you got to sell it. I mean, I've been saying that. Unfortunately, my Travel Trust owns some, but there's no reason to buy those. If you want to buy a stock that yields 4 to 5% where the yield's safe and it's not oil, I bless that. If you want to just put your money to work in an index fund, may I suggest you put it to work in a high dividend fund. I will be buying Fidelity Blue Chip Fund for my kids today. Why? Because they were all cash, and I think that's important. Now, this idea of panic, not a strategy. The idea of doubling down, foolhardy. But you know what? Use some common sense. And by the way, if you're just started in the last 4 or 5 years, listen to me. I've been at it for 36 years. This is my 8th, you could call it crash or correction. And I'm not being sanguine like the Fed was on Friday with Mr. Bullard. I'm saying there's opportunities, but there's also situations that aren't opportunities.
All right, Jim, following up on this theme on what to keep, what to sell in terms of sectors, you touched on oil, right. Retailers, airlines, cars, home builders, pharmaceuticals. Any thoughts on these sectors?
I think that companies that are uniquely levered to our country, and then you mentioned home builders and you mentioned retailers, are most likely buys if you just saw their numbers. So in other words, if you just literally got a report, your numbers are not going to change dramatically because of this, although in some cases, because the dollar has gotten quite weak versus the euro, you may actually see better numbers. See, one of the things that's so difficult, Rhonda, about this sell-off is that most of the news in U.S. is positive from the sell-off. The dollar clearly has peaked against the euro. Commodity costs are going down. We're a buyer of commodities. But emotions are ruling, and when emotions rule, you got to let them rule for a couple days before you take advantage of it.
All right, Jim, on the other side of the coin, 2 ETFs, one a China bear ETF, the other a VIX short futures ETF. Yang is the stock symbol, UVXY the other. Is it too late to get into either of those?
Oh, get serious. You either want to buy the S&P or sell it. I mean, I'm not going to dignify that stupid question.
You touched on the dollar. Is the dollar safe? Would it be wise to invest in foreign currency or metals?
Well, this is a moment where the dollar is actually weaker versus the key security, the euro. I do expect another devaluation in the yen. I mean, another devaluation in China. I think the yen has gotten to the point where it's just ridiculously cheap. But you know what? I don't even want to play with currencies. I've always said that gold is a good insurance. I think that if you wanted to buy some gold, I'm certainly not against that because that's what the people are going to do in those weaker currencies. But at the same time, I mean, again, I don't mean to be arrogant, okay? But this is a keep it simple situation, and people want to complicate it by doing a lot of crazy things. This is a chance to be able to buy a blue chip mutual fund and be able to put away some money if you've got a lot of cash. If you're on margin, you got to get it off immediately. If you're on Twitter and you're trading intraday, why aren't you working at your job?
Jim Cramer, we'll leave it with that question. Thanks so much. Remember, send your Twitter questions to Jim. Use #CramerQ. I'm Rhonda Schaffler for TheStreet.